Hello, welcome to QTV's One-to-One political show. I am your host, ONE2ONE. Today we are at the residence of the British High Commissioner in Cape Point, Bakau. But not to interview High Commissioner David Belgrove, no, the person we've been used to in the past few years, seeing as the High Commissioner to the Gambia. No, we're here to interview the replacement. The High Commissioner ended his tour of duty at the end of last year. So today we're going to talk about the current state of diplomatic relations between the UK and the Gambia, and of course the UK's priorities in its engagement with this in this country. So my guest today, she joined the FCO, that's the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, in the early 2000s, 2002, according to my research, and rose through the ranks, serving in various capacities, including as Deputy Head of Mission in Senegal, next door between 2014 and 2018, and Head of Programs at the British Embassy in Rabat, Morocco. Her most immediate job before she came over here as High Commissioner was as, what do you call it, Head of Strategic Engagement at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I think afterwards they called it the FCDO, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. I've got here Mrs. Harriet King.
Hello.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Going through your CV, I take it this is your first job as a High Commissioner.
It is, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So when you joined, was this it? You knew early on that diplomacy was going to be a career. When you joined in 2002, was this part of the plan to be a High Commissioner at some point?
I think I always was ambitious. I always wanted to come back to Africa. So I started my journey in Africa back in 1997 when I was a teacher in Zimbabwe. And I think Africa really bit me, the passion started then. And I loved traveling, I loved languages, I did languages at university. And I think I always wanted to do a job which meant that I could represent my nation, and represent it overseas was obviously the sort of the highlight of that. So yeah, being a High Commissioner is a fantastic opportunity, and I feel absolutely privileged to have my first job as High Commissioner here in the Gambia.
That's it, of course, one of the first questions we tend to ask is that, is this your first time here? And I thought, certainly not. She was in Senegal, just next door.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I came to the Gambia. I think I've been here twice. I came for the first time back in 2004, actually, and then came a couple of times, I think, when I was in Senegal. So always had my eye slightly on the Gambia and thought, aha, that's my destiny. So yeah, very excited.
Absolutely. And one thing I'm sort of curious about, we've noticed this sort of triennial rotation in a way. 2017, I think it was. Sharon Wardle's by 2020, High Commissioner David Belgrove, 2023. Is that how it's done? Because with us, we're not used to that sort of thing. Sometimes you can have a High Commissioner or ambassador in a place for a very long time. Yeah,
it's normally 3 years for a country like the Gambia. I think they need to give other people the opportunity to come and be here. I could happily be here for years and years, but that would be unfair on other people who should have the entitlement to an experience like this. I think my kids also, who are at boarding school in the UK, want to have me back for a bit of time. But yeah, I'd happily stay for longer if I could.
All right, so let's get into our discussion. Obviously, you are new, but what have you inherited? How would you describe now the relationship, the diplomatic relations between the UK and the Gambia?
I think based on the warmth with which I was welcomed here in the Gambia, that shows how strong the relationship is. I was welcomed so warmly and have been welcomed warmly ever since. It's a strong, historic, deep relationship, a deep friendship that I think the UK has with the Gambia. I just want to do everything I can to enhance and strengthen that further through the opportunities I have to support the Gambia and work with the Gambia over the next now 2.5 years.
Absolutely. But I wonder, how do these things work? What sort of factors really determine the relationship between two countries?
I think it's about shared values. I mean, the UK and the Gambia have so many shared values, whether it's human rights, whether it's kind of the journey towards democracy, whether it's, our shared passion for climate change and essentially making Gambia the best it can possibly be and fulfilling its potential. And I think the Gambia is based, there's so much in the way the Gambia operates today that's based on the UK. So I think that just gives such a depth to the relationship, in my view.
Absolutely. And secondly, I would like to know, is there a kind of like Africa strategy and Gambia must fit in there somewhere? Or do you have a special relationship? I don't know why I'm calling it that, as if we're talking about UK and the US. Or do you address us directly, or is it part of a wider, broader strategy of Africa strategy, and Gambia has to fit the priorities of that Africa strategy?
No, absolutely. I mean, any government has to have a strategy. Any government has to prioritize. We live in a world of finite resources and finite people, and we can't give every country the attention we'd want to. We have to prioritize. So yes, absolutely, the Gambia fits into a wider Africa strategy. It fits into a region. It fits into a larger continent. It fits into a larger world. My job is to basically make sure where I can use that strategy to do the best I possibly can on the ground. The Gambia has a very close relationship, partly because of its role as a member of the Commonwealth. And I think that is really important. And I'm trying to utilize that as much as I can.
Absolutely. So now the priorities, what projects, perhaps the projects that are currently ongoing would tell us, give us a window, or actually opens the door to what your priorities are in your engagement with this country. So can we just go through your
Sure, absolutely. I mean, firstly, just to say that any incoming High Commissioner is not going to suddenly change what's being delivered on the ground. So my job in the first 6 months, 1 year, is to essentially listen and learn and try and work out where the UK has added value, what are the niche areas where the UK can really partner and support the Gambia. So luckily, the values and the priorities that I inherited were the things that I'm really, really passionate about. So we do a lot of work in the area of democracy. So we're doing a lot of work in supporting the justice sector. We want to support where we can the drive towards a new constitution. I believe passionately in the rights of women and girls. So that's an area that we're definitely going to be supporting on. And we're looking to do that through support to youth. And I'm looking at where we can potentially provide more support in education and health. So those are some of the top key areas. Other areas that we're looking at are continued support on security sector reform. Our two armed forces have a very close relationship. So we will continue to do what we can in terms of capacity building for the Gambian armed forces. Climate change, I mentioned earlier. This is obviously an area of real worry for the Gambia. It's been, heavily impacted already by climate change, and climate change is a key area for the UK and its vision overseas. So I want to look at where we can enhance our support and our partnership on climate change. The economy. So obviously economic development is really vital for the future of the Gambia, and it's my job to look at potential areas where we can enhance trade between our two countries and potentially enhance inward investment into the Gambia. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'm keen to look at areas where we can enhance that. We have a lot of British nationals who both live here and who travel here, and I'm a firm believer in the huge potential that the Gambia has to offer tourism, ecotourism, for example. So I want to see how we can enhance that relationship. Tourism is so important to the Gambia, and it's my job also with my team to make sure that British nationals are well looked after where they need support when they come here on holiday or when they're living here. I also mentioned earlier about education and health. Girls' rights is something I'm really, really passionate about. Having lived and worked in Africa, having worked in Senegal on girls' rights, human rights, it's an area that I really, really want to enhance our support to the Gambia on.
Absolutely. But how would you respond to this argument that as important as they are, human rights, democracy, and the rest of it, perhaps the most pressing priorities, as it were, for this country would be perhaps help in certain industries, the transformational stuff, isn't it? Be it manufacturing and the IT, in agriculture. Perhaps that's really the priority of the country, but democracy is important, there's no denying that.
Yeah.
But maybe without that economic development, it will be hard to hold on to the democracy. Shouldn't that be the focus of help?
It's a really important point. I mean, essentially, people care about having food on their tables to feed their families. They care about their kids being educated and having a future and having prospects. In a way, you could say that matters less to an individual family than the right to a vote. But the only way that you get to have that economic freedom and that education is by making sure that you fulfill your democratic duty and vote in a government that will deliver that. But yes, economic opportunities for young people, that's why I sort of want to focus on youth, is absolutely vital. We need to make sure that people don't just want to go to Europe, that they want to stay here, or if they go to Europe, that they're encouraged to come back here and help their country develop. So it's incredibly important.
So there is the argument that what we are faced with now is that not a kind of cooperation, as it were. It can never be between equals, obviously. Not a cooperation that would help us, but rather fulfill a certain international agenda which focuses on you must democratize all women's issues and that sort of thing. What do you think? Is it really in our interest, or are we fulfilling a certain international agenda? Hence, politically, it's provoking a certain reaction, people say, against the West. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm not here to interfere in what happens in the Gambia. It's your country. It's ultimately up to the Gambia to push itself forward. I fundamentally believe in that, and that is my job and my role. I'm here to help, to ultimately to listen. You know, as I say, for the first 12 months, for 3 years, I'm here to listen to what you have to say and help and nudge and support and partner where I can. It is not for the West to necessarily force you to do certain things or try and influence you in certain ways. Obviously, we have our agenda. But as I mentioned at the start, the Gambia and the UK have so many shared values. And you are such a fantastic supporter to us in the multilateral fora. At the UN, you're fantastic in terms of your support on human rights. You know, on the international stage, you're very, very well respected. I just want to make sure where I can, that I can help Gambia continue along that path. I'm not here to push the UK agenda. I'm just here to help you guys grow.
Absolutely. So what I'm trying to do here is sort of get a realistic picture, if you like, of what can we possibly really expect from this relationship. You know what I mean? To tame expectations, especially on our side, because we tend to have a go at, you know, all kinds of foreign nationals, you know, the powerful, as it were, the UK, EU, US, whatever. But what must be really one's realistic expectations, for instance, from the UK government in this relationship?
Sure. I mean, we don't have huge, great big checkbooks. We're not here just to provide development assistance. What we want to offer is the UK's position as a thought leader, as a convener. I see my role as bringing people together to have conversations, to connect the dots, to enhance partnerships, to put people in the Gambia in touch with people who might be able to help in the UK who've been through similar experiences, to put people in touch internationally where they might be able to help and partner. Bringing people together is where I think the UK really has a role to play and really has value to add. I think just showcasing the Gambia and getting people to listen to your issues is really, really helpful, rather than just writing checks or donating equipment or that kind of thing. It's about using UK expertise to provide capacity building, to provide mentorship, to provide training, to really help you grow together with us in the way that only you can do.
Yes, I'm going to ask you this question. Perhaps it might put you on the spot. Earlier on, you said that you were passionate about girls' issues and that sort of thing. Currently, I'm sure you're aware, in our National Assembly, there's a debate on whether to repeal the FGM law, which was passed in 2015. I wonder, should the National Assembly members decide to repeal it, what effect, what consequences would it have on our relationship, if any?
So I mentioned shared values on human rights. So obviously we really hope that those shared values will demonstrate themselves and that democracy will find a way of ensuring that women and girls can have those rights. Again, we're not here to tell the Gambia what to do. We're not here to tell National Assembly members what to do or how to vote or how to think. We are here to support where we can for the women and the girls and the CSOs and the human rights organizations to have a voice, so that they really feel that they can be heard, so that they have the opportunity to explain what the impact is on women and girls of FGM, what the medical implications are. we will listen, we will support. We're not going to dictate, we're not going to tell people what to do. But we have fundamental human rights conventions that we've signed up to as the UK. The Gambia has signed up to them too. And we really hope that the Gambia will continue on its path towards continued support for women and girls and continued support for the human rights of its citizens.
But would it affect any of the projects? Will it have any negative impact in one area or another?
I think we'll have to see. We have clear views. We have clear views on FGM. We have laws in our own country about what happens to those who are involved in FGM. That's in our own country. We have jurisdiction over our own country. I think those views are very well known. We'll have to see what happens. I can't predict what the future is going to entail in terms of what happens here in the country.
Absolutely. I've only brought this up because there is a belief amongst us, some people, that, for instance, what happened in was it Uganda with the LGBT stuff, there are certain set items on the agenda. If you do not play a ball, it's as if aid is being used as an instrument of imposition. So one is just sort of wary, fearful that perhaps with that, there's been that argument, imagine that we repeal it, there will be consequences on donors and Western donors, what they're giving us. This is why I'm sort of trying to pursue it a bit to clarify it. Should we be fearful? It's not an unreasonable expectation, is it?
It's not an unreasonable expectation, and as I say, we're not one of the top donors for the Gambia. You know, there are others who may take different stances in terms of sort of the bigger things at play. We will be strong if things don't look like they're going in the right direction. I can't say now whether we'd threaten our support. I think our historic relationship will always remain. It has to. We believe in engagement. We believe in discussion. We believe in working with you. But if something as significant as a repeal of the law happens, who knows what the international community will say. But just to be really, really clear, it's not for us to get involved. It's for you as a country to work out how you're going to play the current situation. We will just listen and support and talk privately with people where that's relevant and where that's helpful. It's for you as a country to work through your democratic processes to hopefully ensure that the rights of women and girls are upheld and supported.
One thing I was always curious about, does it make a difference who the government is in Britain, be it the Conservatives or Labour? How does it affect relationships, your foreign policy relationships? For instance, on the Labour, we realized that there was something called DFID, more focused on us. But again, on the Conservative, I think that was scrapped. Something else came on. And the reduction in the aid budget, wasn't it, from 0.7 to 0.5? So there has been this declining sort of engagement in a way with does it make a difference?
So just to be clear, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and DFID were two separate government departments. It wasn't that DFID was cut, it was that they were joined with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to form the FCDO. Essentially, what that now means is that we can directly link our development priorities with our political priorities. And I fundamentally believe that the two being interlinked and working more closely together within one department actually leads to better thought out development work. So DFID hasn't been cut. So my work in Morocco was largely sort of DFID based. It's been joined. It's been, I think, the two departments now work much more closely together as one department, and we're able to link what we want to deliver politically in terms of policy better with the actual day-to-day development support that we're offering to countries and the partnerships that we're having with countries. We can link our development work much more closely with our policy work.
So only the aid budget was cut?
It was cut, and it was very unfortunate. I was actually delivering a fantastic program in Morocco, which was cut. But when the financial circumstances allow, we do aspire to increase that development budget. And I'm a massive advocate for that, because it affects everyone in the world. You know, Africa has got so much potential. There's so much to be done in Africa. I'm a complete Africa. I love Africa. I want to do everything I can to support Africa. It supports the UK to improve the situation in African countries. So it will continue to be a huge priority for us going forward. And as I say, hopefully we'll be able to increase the amount of money that we can spend on overseas development assistance as soon as we possibly can.
Absolutely. What about trade? We've not been, particularly with Gambia, in trade and investment, not much really has been going on. When I looked at certain figures, total UK exports to the Gambia around 46 million in the first quarter, the first 4 quarters to the 2023, a decrease. There appears to have been a decrease in trade, and when it comes to investment, apparently 83% of it all in extractive stuff, nothing really to help us. In what ways can trade and investment be improved, if you reckon?
I think, again, it's about me being able to bring people together. So spotting opportunities that I see here in the Gambia, talking about those opportunities with potential investors in the UK, and kind of joining the dots and getting those conversations starting. I'm still new, but I want to spend the next 2.5 years trying to get those conversations starting, working with the Gambia so that they can sell themselves more. I think, as I say, tourism is a really potential area where I feel really passionate about it. I've seen the beauty of your country, chimpanzees, hippos, you know, the amazing nature and sort of wildlife that you have on offer. I think that's a real area of expansion. So my job is to kind of join those dots and get those conversations starting so that those figures can hopefully improve in my time. I take that as a challenge.
Sort of, there's been recent talk, really, how one can use the diaspora. The last figure I checked, about 30,000 Gambians in the UK. Some of us went through the UK. But one wonders, how can we bring that into play in a significant way, as it were, smoothing relationships, as it were, in contributing, as it were, that you can use. Do you think about it, how you can use maybe the Gambian diaspora in dealing with, bringing it into diplomatic play, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, essentially I see all Gambians in the UK as essentially ambassadors for their country. It's the same thing for UK people who are here. They represent the UK. They may not know it, but you're all ambassadors for your own country. I think it's about networking and being in touch with those diaspora. I'm not yet to the extent that I want to be. I've met your fantastic High Commissioner in London, want to kind of grow that relationship and see her whenever I go back. I think, you know, the numbers are high, that all of those people can help sell the Gambia, they can help sell that massive tourism potential. They can get more tourists here. They can try and enhance those potential opportunities for greater trade and vice versa. So I really see there's a lot of potential in that diaspora. Also, you know, to try and help them to come back and help their country. There's a fantastic scheme called the Chevening Scholarship Scheme. I don't know if you know it, but that's a really, really important way of sending Gambians to the UK, paid for by the UK government, to showcase the Gambia and showcase their country. So yeah, absolutely want to work on how we can improve and utilise the diaspora a lot more than we are now.
I think some of us sort of are a bit uneasy, if I can put it that way. When it comes to visas, we are the worst served in all the areas. We're not Gambians, but Africa generally. We have more rejections when it comes to getting visas to go to the US or UK, just to go out to the West. So some people say that, wow, when all the front doors are shut, no wonder that you have a lot of back way when the front way is shut. How would you respond to that?
So I think getting visas for the UK has become a lot easier recently. I think arguably it's easier now to get a visa for the UK than it is for our European countries.
Not from the anecdotal evidence, clearly fine. No one has particularly done a survey to find out, but from the anecdotal evidence, one gets the sense that it's really difficult. Most people are rejected. It's almost like a quota that's allowed in. Are we right in thinking that?
So I don't know the latest stats. You may well be correct. In terms of our visa application system, it has to be robust, it has to be detailed, and it has to rely on people providing the right paperwork. And more often than not, people don't necessarily provide the paperwork that they need to provide in terms of the application process. And it's just a question of making sure that when you apply, you give every sense that you have a reason to return to the Gambia, that there would be no reason for you to go and overstay your visa in the UK, for example. We have to have a stance on visa. We have to be thorough. We have to make sure that people who are coming for the right reasons. We want them to come back to the Gambia. They need to be here supporting their country. So we are going to continue to maintain a thorough and robust system. We want to make it as user-friendly as possible. Visa applications are separate from the High Commission, so they're done by a private company. They're administered by a private company. And that's important also. I don't necessarily get involved. It's separate. You apply through our Ministry of the Interior, the Home Office. It's separate from the High Commission. But we will do all we can to communicate and make sure that people understand the process, people understand what they have to submit, when, why, how long it takes, so that the clarity and the visibility of what the system is and how it works is there to the maximum.
Yes, I wonder, I know that you've got 3 years. How would you want to be remembered after 3 years? I mean, I know you're coming in new, but when you look at, yeah, of course, right now you're studying, you're looking at things granted, but is there anything in your head telling you, yes, at the end of 3 years, possibly I want to be remembered for A, B, C, and D? I wonder.
Okay, so firstly, I'm not here to enhance my ego or just for me. I'm here to work as part of my British High Commission team and for my government. So I don't have an individual requirement for my own legacy. I think for me, it's all about relationships. So I hope that I'm working on some really, really close relationships with a lot of Gambians. I'm fascinated by meeting you and by learning about your culture and your history and your opinions and your drive and everything. I want to leave here in 2.5 years' time or longer if I can manage it, being remembered as somebody who had integrity, who could be trusted, who was passionate about the culture, passionate about discovering everything she could about the Gambia, and essentially was somebody who respected the country and wanted to do everything she could to make that relationship stronger. It's not about delivering individual goals or individual projects. That's not what it's about. It's about the relationship, and it's about those individual relationships, and it's about me leaving here as somebody that people looked up to and respected and trusted.
We're coming towards the end of the program. Whilst I was researching you, I read somewhere that one of your children likes wonjo. I wonder, what do you like when it comes to our food or our beverages? And particularly this, you are in Senegal. There's been a long debate. Maybe you can help us settle it here. Chebujen or benachin? Have you tested our benachin?
I have, and I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose my Senegalese friends now. To be perfectly honest, not just because I'm the British High Commissioner to the Gambia, it's definitely benachin. There's just something about it. But that said, and my kids would disagree because they're benachin supporters, your domoda, particularly with beef, is amazing. If I eat nothing else for the rest of my life, I would just eat your domoda. It is delicious. And both of my kids love your wonjo, by the way, not just one.
We've come to the end of the one-to-one. Thank you very much, Mrs. Harriet King, the new High Commissioner to the Gambia. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other more frequently in the future.
Hopefully. Absolutely delighted. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, viewers. Until the next time, I'm Mamadou Mbouch. Goodbye.